just what Jim was saying, like we're going as young as sixth grade, sometimes fifth grade, but trying to give young people, and mostly in Title I schools, so those are schools that qualify for free lunches, which often are representing the underserved communities, an opportunity to dive in deeply into this gaming industry, this experience they all love to do, and help them become creators of this content, not just consumers. And we've been finding that it's a program that we've been running called the Games for Change Student Challenge. We've been running it for the past 6 years. We've reached over 30,000 young people in middle and high school. And we not only give them an opportunity to learn how to make games, but we also combine that with civic engagement. So they have to think about how games can help make their communities better. So right from the start, we want to empower them to think about this really important medium, not only as something they love to do, but they actually can make. They're learning important 21st century and STEM skills that can help them regardless of what career path. But what we really hope to see happen is that they see a future for themselves and they see an opportunity, a pathway for them. And part of our program, an important part of it, is this idea of mentoring, and mentoring from near peers and also from people from the community. So as Jim says, it's so important they see themselves in the people that are coming to speak to them. So when we're in Los Angeles, for example, we can reach out to USC Games for game design students to come and speak to the kids, that we can bring people in from Riot or Activision or from Take-Two to come in and say, yes, this is what I do, and this is something for you. And we do the same thing in New York and working in Atlanta and Detroit. And I can tell you that students are coming back year on year, and we're seeing them use this program as like their college essay, or they're building their portfolio. And I love the idea that, if we can get to them at a young age, they spend their summers with Layla at Girls Make Games, and then they can go on and apply to college, and we're talking about this pipeline or this pathway for them. And so that's that role and what we hope to inspire.
I love what you said there, Suzanne. There's so many little nuggets that you just pulled out there. The different avenues you can have and career pathways there are in the gaming industry. Just the activity that you can have in terms of having mentorship and role models and representation, and just, having good gamers out there. So there's so many things that you talked about that I want to hit on. Let's just pull Layla into this conversation and just talk about the idea of mentorship and representation. Layla, talk about the workshops and the summer programs that you offer to girls. How does that help to increase the representation and the mentorship aspects that we've talked about?
Thanks so much for having me. I was on mute. This is 2021, still going on mute. But like Susanna said, I think it's really important to kind of pass that baton on. And I think we see this summer after summer, having created a place that's, for girls. We get this question a lot. Why do you need a space that's just for girls? There's so many programs out there that are open to everyone. But I think it's just so important to create that space because, like Jim talked about, it's so important to see people who are like yourselves. For many of the girls that come to camp, this is their first time walking into a room full of girls who love video games. They've been so accustomed to kind of being the only girl on their robotics team, or the only girl that went to a coding camp with their brother, and the girl who's fighting her brothers for the Xbox controller. So those are very common themes and stories. And I think it's important to kind of tie in not just the mentorship, but also the community. It's very important to walk into a room and feel like you're not an outsider. And the best way to do that is to show many more faces that look just like you. It's really validating to walk away, not just with the technical skills, but to feel like these are people that I'm going to, kind of encounter in 10, 15 years, and we'll be like professionals, because right now we're just kids making games, but we'll be professionals in a few years. And 7 years out for Girls Make Games, we're finally starting to see, these girls kind of make plans together to go to college. And this year, I would say, like, the first time we got in like dozens of emails from families saying, my daughter is now thinking of college, and how do we get this portfolio going? How do we set that up? So I think, touching on Jim's point too, there's so many challenges that, people have to go through just to get everything right. You shouldn't have to rely on luck so much. So if you look at the women who are now excelling and thriving in the industry and you ask them their stories, so many things had to go right in their lives to finally end up in the industry. Many of whom ended up there accidentally, like me and even Tony. I think Tony and I touched on that earlier. But it shouldn't have to be luck or accident. We can actually intentionally create these pipelines. And I think it requires all of us working together, like everyone in this room, talking about what we're doing and how do we pass our students on from, we start as young as 8, getting them onto the programs and then passing them on to the student challenge and then on to USC and then finally on to the industry. I think that's basically the magic formula to solving the problem that we're talking about today.
Yes, thank you for hitting on that pipeline challenge and actually solution. You really clearly laid it out there for us. I really, really enjoy that. And something else you mentioned is just like really opening this world of gaming to new, diverse, a pool and a spectrum of gamers. And how do we create those real pathways back into the gaming industry? Gordon, you've done a lot of work in just helping to create value where value was not seen in places in the gaming industry, specifically for the gay gaming professionals. Can you talk about how the representation and widening the spectrum of what gaming professional looks like and how your company and your role really accomplishes that?
Sure. So we have a mission which is focused on education, employment, expertise, and entrepreneurship. And the reason why is because alongside diversity and equity inclusion, there's a new word that's come up a lot, which is belonging, yes. Right? A feeling of belonging, of being default. And I know that people in their uniqueness do a lot of mental, socioeconomic, and sometimes social gymnastics before they get to be as good as they are, before they get a chance to participate in this panel or participate in our industry by and large. And I think the work that we all share is trying to disrupt some of those mental gymnastics, socioeconomic gymnastics, social gymnastics that young women, people of color, indigenous people, neurodiverse people need to do in order to be as great as they are, to belong, in the space. And sort of hearing, what Layla's speaking to of a cohort, right, that treats each other as default. And where are we going to go now together, collectively? The program, Jim's putting in place, right, with the endowment honoring Lawson, where there's going to be cohorts of Black and Indigenous people, right, growing together. And the work that Susanna, you've been doing since before it was cool, okay? You were changing games, making that dollar out of 15 cents before all of us. All of that work, and with the support of corporations like Take-Two, right, is enabling us to move a generation forward. Specifically with GGP, we have a scholars program in partnership with Take-Two. Some go to USC, many go on to participate in Games for Change, and many have been girls who made games. And that's where we find ourselves intersecting, is at that college point of how do we take them towards professionalization? And then we hope to carry them through into employment, into being experts, right? Because that's the real challenge when you're trying to discover people. You don't want just to be entering, you want experts, right? And if things are going to really change, like this discussion, you need owners, right? Layla, owner. Susanna, owner. Jim, owner. All of you, owners of facets of your business, right? That is where we become the batter, not the frosting, right? Where the change is, more than we can count, 2%, 3%, 1%. We aren't even the ones counting, right? We're still being counted, right? Until you're doing the counting, nothing has changed, right? I don't need to ask, how many young ladies are in Girls Make Games? You're like, all of them, right? And what is the gender balance of Games for Change? All of it, right? These sort of systemic changes, that is the work I think we all share. I think it's why we all made time today, right? I've been to every E3. I was a booth boy when I started, and I'm still here, right? 25, 26 years later, haven't missed one yet. So I hope that someone out there sees this and begins their path, right? And this is additive, that's why we're all here.
I appreciate that. Yes, exactly what you're saying. There's so much more that all of us can be doing. The accountability piece is really very important, Gordon. Thank you for bringing that up. I just want to lay this out there to all our panelists. What can corporations do to really set themselves up for success in the near future and grabbing this new talent, this talent out there that we need to capture to help us build better, more relevant, engaging video games? What can corporations do?
So I was thinking about this in particular as Gordon was talking about the scholarships that he puts forward. So having organizations, companies like Take-Two have to be visible to young people, not just because they're buying, they're downloading the games off of Xbox or PlayStation, but because they're there in front from the beginning. And so Take-Two has been part of our challenge since the beginning, offering scholarships to our grand prize winners. And I can tell you that that's a motivator for kids to participate, not just because there's a scholarship at the end, but it's because Take-Two is part of it. Like, it made us cool. Right. And I think it's that relationship at that young of an age that makes a connection for people. Is like, yeah, they want to hear what I have to say. Right. Like, they're here because this program exists and because I'm interested in doing it. And I think that kind of relationship with these kids, whether they're mentoring and coming into a classroom, they're volunteering at a game jam or judging games at the end of the competition, they're involved. And I think that it really has an impact on young kids' lives.
Yes, I love that.
I just want to add to what Suzanne's saying. I think that, and something that, we're talking about Take-Two, and thank you for having us, is making the success of Black people, of women, of queer people, of Indigenous people, neurodiverse people, a business goal. Plain the same way that the consumption, right, of content, right, get some downloadable skins, buy some NBA 2K, right, that's a business goal around which the business is aligned. And I feel as though if the expertise of women, Black people, neurodiverse, other populations was a business goal, then that would be the change. It'd be that simple. Like, our business is more successful if there is more of this, right? And that's about people being of value versus just being valuable, which are two different things. There's lots of exceptional people, right, who are of value in spite of their circumstances. They're valuable, right? There's a difference between saying you're of value and that's a business goal in itself. And I think that's the real change, because it used to be, just real talk, it used to be about exceptionalism, right? And be like, oh, you're able to thrive under this duress, right? Isn't that cool? Versus, right, you are actually who we are, so we are going to cultivate you. That's who we are year round. That's what we look like, what we sound like, right? Who we are, right? And so as the lever moves more towards that, right? The same way, like, I have biases. I attended Harvard College, so I'm of value, right? There's value in that, right? I'm treated that way in some circles. If the same lens was put onto women, onto brown people, Black people, queer people, then there'd be no, as the kids say, no cap on the change that could take place.
Right. And that just speaks to being deliberate with our diversity, inclusion, equity practices. Corporations really have to take that accountability and, like you said, do what's right in that spectrum, in that conversation, looking at value from different sources and kind of recalibrating our minds to that. But like you guys have said, it takes time. It takes starting earlier in the pipeline. I love that you just call that out. What other things can corporations do that are just different than what we've been doing in the past, perhaps? What would you recommend?
I would even add to what Gordon just said. The looking at this challenge as a business challenge is key. That's what between the inspiration of the social justice marches from last summer and really talking to our chair Danny Bilson, who said that, hey, if you were going to tackle this issue, this giant generational issue as a business problem, what would you do? And that flipped the light switch on for me. Well, of course, like any business problem, what are my challenges? I've got gaps in my supply chain, if you will. So how do I fill those gaps in my supply chain? And really working your way backwards in a way where you're putting objectives, strategies, and tactics in place to achieve those goals from a business perspective. You're going to see outcome when it's not just, hey, here's a check and good luck with charity X. It's going to be more of, okay, here's a check. This is what we're hoping to see. Let's measure along the way and see if we're seeing progress on that. And it's the measurement of progress and adjusting in real time based on the data that you're getting back. That's where you're going to meet. That's where you're going to see the gap start to close in a meaningful way and be able to point out to other people in the industry, like, hey, this is what we can all do together. What if we scale this effort up and really had an impact on society as a whole? That mindset is really going to be what changes the game.
So I like to think about it as like a pie. You know, when we think about from like a corporate strategy, we always think about there's a piece of the pie and everyone gets a little piece of the pie. But I think the way we have to approach this is really the pie is not a fixed size. I think by including more people, the pie gets bigger. So it's not a fixed size that we're trying to all get a piece of, but by including more people, you know, in the industry, by becoming creators of this medium, we actually expand the medium, expand it beyond just entertainment. And I think that speaks really heavily to me as a problem solver. Is like when I look at video games, it's such an underutilized tool for social change. And I think like that I can see Susanna kind of has been on the forefront of that. And coming in as an outsider to the games industry, I was just kind of blown away that, oh my God, you can do so much. Like 9 out of 10 kids play video games. You know, not 9 out of 10 boys, 9 out of 10 kids. We're talking about literally changing perceptions and inspiring and educating generation after generation. And yet that power rests in the hand of like a select few. And I think when you think about it, not just from a corporate responsibility, but as a social responsibility, like what are we putting out there for our kids to consume? I think we need to bring in pretty much everyone, anyone and everyone who's interested in building a future together in that. So between the pie and the corporate responsibility, I feel like there's a lot that gets lost. Like, I think there's a big dichotomy between these are people that are doing good and these are people that are self-serving, but it doesn't work like that. We have to work together, and everyone does kind of go between what's good for me and what's good for everyone, you know, so.
Thank you for bringing that concept up, Layla. The codependency. We are all community members in this pipeline, and we have to be active, deliberate in our processes, in our systems, how we tackle this problem. Before we end this conversation, there's tons of questions that we have that we want to ask you. So I'm going to pause right now and give our esteemed questionnaires a chance to ask their questions that are top of mind related to our conversation today. So we're going to start it off with some questions from our other video game industry experts here. We've got Carrie. She's an executive producer from Private Division. We also have Vanetta, who's a director of talent acquisition with Take-Two. And Nir, he's the head of mobile for Take-Two. So go ahead and fire it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. The first question is for Layla, but certainly open to having the rest of our panelists answer the question. But at the beginning of your career, did you ever imagine being a leader within an industry that is predominantly male dominated? And what is your advice for other young women that are interested in taking a similar path to where you are today?
Thank you, Juanetta. I don't think I really envisioned being in a male-dominated industry, although I did envision being in a male-dominated world, because I grew up in the Middle East and I was painfully aware of being a girl and how my life was going to turn out to be different from my male peers or my brothers or my cousins or any of that. I was fortunate that my parents were very supportive and they wanted me to pursue whatever dream I wanted. But I think having that mindset and coming from a world that was very much male dominated already prepared me for, hey, whatever I end up doing, there's going to be more boys or men than me. I think the piece of advice that I would really give girls is to honestly not think about your gender when you think about what you want to pursue, because it's all about you specifically. You might end up liking things that people, even your age, your geographic location, your educational background, or your family might not have heard of or even thought of. And that is all the things that I ended up doing were things that didn't match anything that I had seen in my own environment, but I just kind of pursued what I wanted to. And then 2 is to kind of use a very selective hearing. I think you have to kind of develop selective hearing, listen to the people that care about you, that love you, and encourage you in being more of who you are, and diminish the voices of people who say you can't do things because it's never been done, or that's not how it is, or that's not how the world works. The way the world works is based on the world that we build, and we're continually building a new world. So it doesn't matter how things are done now, they're going to be done a different way as you grow up, and you can be part of building that world. So those would be like my 2 pieces of advice for girls, is to just pursue what you want and, develop selective hearing.
All right. My question is for Susanna, but also open to anyone else who would like to answer. And I think Gordon kind of hit it earlier when he said that, most of us didn't have a lot of examples or opportunities. I'm in that boat. I didn't have any programs and anyone telling me that I could do this, and definitely had to, not necessarily an accident, but really had to work in a different way, harder than most. So my question, Susanna, for you is, could you share an example of how your program has impacted someone that has participated, or, a few people?
Sure. So as I said, our program is 6 years old in New York City. We're a bit younger in the other cities that we're operating in, and there are opportunities now that kids all over the country can participate. But we saw in New York a very particularly strong cohort. We're actually in over 125 schools right now in New York City, and there are some rock star teachers that have encouraged their kids to participate, their participants, year on year and year. And that to me is certainly the beginning of getting this kind of program off the ground, and particularly in schools where students usually aren't offered this kind of experience. So one, having the teachers find value and really and work to and making it a part of an annual program within their school system has also allowed students to continue with the program year on year. There's one young woman in particular who won, I think she won the our theme category the first time round. When she participated as a sophomore. The junior year, she won again. And by the senior year, she was a grand prize winner in New York City. And I hear that she then followed on with a full scholarship to NYU Game Center. Right. And it was just amazing. And I just remember she was invited to speak at the Games for Change Festival after she won. It must have been the second year. I don't think it was the third year. And she came and we were having a conversation about, the program, and she was invited to speak on it. And her father came with her and followed her around the entire 2 days she was there with a camera recording her experience in this, professional environment, not only when she was speaking, but when she was sitting and watching the other people on stage. And it was so awesome to see that kind of support within her family. And I'm like, all right, you've got educators supporting this young woman, this pathway. You've got her family. And actually, since she graduated, I've seen other kids in her family come through the program. But it takes that kind of multiple supports from different directions to really support this young woman who is a woman of color from Brooklyn, who found her path, right? And she got the right supports, and she got there. And now I also understand that she's launched her own studio and is raising money, on Kickstarter. She's remarkable.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story. That's so cool.
Nir, do you have a question for our panelists?
Yeah, hi, I do. So my question is to Gordon. I'm looking at LGBTQ representation in gaming. I've been in gaming for more than 12 years, and it feels to me that representation is a bit low than what you would expect, what I see in tech in other sectors. Do you have some data or some thoughts about that? Is that the fair estimation? And if so, why is that? And what are the main challenges that LGBTQ individuals face in this industry?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you a little history here. So when we started GGP about 15 years ago, which is not that long ago in corporate times, queer people only existed on an anonymous mailing list, anonymous to each other.
That's
okay, because employment safety, which is still a concern globally, not to mention just safety, was a number one concern which all of us lived with. So, even back then, weird flex, but I had designed Madden Football, had already sold a company to Activision, employment safety. So that is the number one reason why. And just in this new recent history, have we begun to build the trust and value in each other so as to aggregate and to even acknowledge each other, okay, and to build systemic ties to companies like Take-Two and others to move from hiding from the industry, right, escaping from the industry, to affinity, right, to employee resource groups and corporate leaders like Tony existing, right? And we're moving closer to being a business resource. And so in other technology areas, that path is further along, where it is like to say in the batter that the queer identity is of value, and there's customers, there's of course creators, there's of course business leaders and owners, of all walks. And in the optimum business, you would cultivate, all types of people. As a game craft, we are still in generation one. You even asking this question here, you are a wild pioneer. You are the out there with your machete chopping down bamboo to even ask this question, which presumes that LGBT people would be employed, okay, and then in communication with each other, right? In communication with each other across different companies, and in any sort of ongoing concern. So welcome. Thank you for asking. For those of you at home, we have a Discord and a Facebook that you can all join and participate at any time, or you can reach out to me directly on Twitter, Gordon Bellamy. Wherever you may be on or off your path as an LGBTQIA person or an ally, right? Because I think that's something we've all discovered. And I think whatever population you are part of, whether it be across gender or race or expression identity, is that you don't have to be a member to care, okay? You don't got to be a member to say this is an important issue. And in fact, a lot of the work that we do at a corporate level is saying, hey, you don't have to do all the work, right? You know how to push the rock that's sitting on you. We're going to help you push that rock that's on you. It's not on me, but I can help push, right? Because I can see it. It's on you. And so asking these questions, corporate support, time, right? 3 T's, time, talent, and treasure, will move this discussion forward. I hope that answers your question there, but otherwise just get at me. I can, tell you more. And anyone else there who's watching, we can tell you more in greater detail.
Gordon, I know your company has some things going on in the few months.
Oh,
Can you talk
sure.
about some of the activities you guys have?
Sure. So we have most of our content now, in addition to our Scholars Program and our community service that we do with Take-Two, is streaming. So we stream front page of Twitch and we bring it to YouTube, content around equity, inclusion, belonging. And not just LGBT, we just had our second Indigenous Game Creators panel yesterday. Big hit, because you know what? Indigenous creation has always been here. In August, we're going to be doing our first GGP honors, which is going to be honoring the best in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in our craft. So we're going to be lifting up the people who do the work, right? Every day in our ERGs, in our executive suites, like Dr. Liggins, right? These people need to be cultivated as well, right? The same way that we cultivate engineers, artists, and other things that we value, right? Things that we value need to be cultivated. So we're going to begin to do that work August. Tune in, front page of Twitch. It's going to be a mood. Hope you're all there.
Awesome. Thank you. We probably have time for one more question, so let's go for it. Who's got their last burning question for our panelists?
Oh, I have several questions.
Burn.
If
Burn.
it's one, we'll just speak. I have to come from the affinity group, ERG, BRG perspective. So Gordon, thank you for touching on that. So this question is for both Jim and Gordon, as someone that represents a member of an ERG as well as a leader of an ERG. What advice would you give ERGs, affinity groups, BRGs that are either just starting out or those that are established in organizations that are looking for ways to further embed themselves into the business, so that batter versus the icing that you're talking about?
Also, I mean, to add to that, I think the something that a few of us have touched on earlier is an old adage from the business world: you can't manage what you can't measure. If you don't have a way to see how your progress is evolving over a continuum, you're kind of just going, well, I think something's working, let's just keep doing that. And business people, myself being one of them, don't respond well to that. It's just okay, let's just keep investing in a thing that I don't know the results of. You need to be able to go back and say, hey, this year we were here, this following year we were here. Here's the, not only have we seen a positive impact on the investment or good ROI, but we also recognize the fact that the partner and partners that we're working with are making moves and making investments into the future that they're saying that they want to see. The positive feedback loop of being able to say, here's data that shows that what we're doing is having an impact on our objectives, and rewarding that partner or those partners for that investment and for that support. That's really key to building a positive feedback loop around investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, what Jim said, but I'd still say make it mobile. God, if you could move that needle like 0.2%, anything, you can't get cut. You can't get cut then, right? There's no way, no, because they budget's tight when you're moving that needle 0.2%, right?
No, the scale at which we all operate, it's pretty staggering when you think about it. When you aggregate how much revenue and profit goes and gross profit goes in the games business, for a meaningful moving of the needle of DEI, comparatively speaking, it's not a huge amount of money. It's, to have a really big demonstrable impact, measurable impact. If we aggregate our dollars and really focus on some key objectives, we can really move the needle in a way that's going to, frankly, when you start seeing things work, people get excited. It worked. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why the Lawson Fund is what it is. It's an endowment because we want to see it have an impact in the aggregate over time, over generations, and support students for decades to come. Not just have it be this fiscal year, what can we do?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
One more thing, just to let it go, is just keep saying Black out loud. Right? Let's get back to Black is beautiful. We've been residing in Black Lives Matter for a long time, and we need to be back to like Black and proud and Black and beautiful. And so your existence, right? And saying it and saying positive outcomes after the word Black is meaningful each and every day that you can do it in your ERG.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you.
Go if we have time for more. Layla, how have you been able to actually connect with the people in the community to bring awareness for your programs? Like, how do you actually gather people to participate, and especially like in the very beginning?
Oh my gosh. So the first camp in 2014, we literally like barged into a maker fair with flyers, and we were just going around and being like, you look like you would love video games because you're playing with robots right now. So come to our camp. But I think it's pretty much primarily been word of mouth originally, but then when we ended up partnering with the game studios and game companies, that really helped elevate the program and the PR. I think Susanna touched on that. It's like it actually legitimized us and then kind of made us really cool. Like, hey, you can go make games at these game studios. You can actually make a game at Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Take-Two. You can go into their offices, meet the developers, and make these games. And I think that cool factor has kind of really helped us out. When it comes to speakers and people who want to mentor and be involved, that's been a lot easier because, a lot of our teachers end up being college students themselves, and they come back and they'll say things like, I wish this program existed when I was younger. It sucks I couldn't go to it, but at least I get to be a part of it and give back to the kids. And then same thing for mentors and speakers. There's so much interest in wanting to give back and wanting to welcome new voices into the industry. We haven't really had to do a lot of pushing. In fact, we get pulled in a lot of directions. I was talking to my team the other day. I was like, this is a very fortunate problem to have where we're getting pulled in 100 directions because we're needed in 100 directions, as opposed to us telling people that, hey, this is important, pay attention, and, look at what we're doing. So I would say it's been very organic and really the tide is turning. We're building a new industry. We're building on the industry that we have, but we're also building a new part of the industry together. So it's really exciting.
Thank you. Thanks, Layla. And thank you to our panelists. You guys have been very inspirational, very thought-provoking, and have left us with a lot of great tidbits to take away, to take back to our corporations and our respective organizations to really make a deliberate impact in our community that we're building and this whole world of diversity and equity and inclusion in the video game industry. So thank you all. Thank you, the viewers, for joining, and have fun at the virtual E3 conference.
I think ever since Mega Man X, I've just loved it.
Yeah, you are my fire, the one desire, believe when I I say I want it that way. But we are two worlds apart. Can't reach to your heart when you say that I want it that way. Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. Am I your fire, your one desire? Yes, I know it's too late, but I want it that way. Tell me why ain't nothing but a thought. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. Now I can see that we're falling apart from the way that it used to be. Yeah, no matter the distance, I want you to know that deep down inside of me, you are my fire, the one desire. You are. Don't wanna hear you say nothing but a heartache. Ain't nothing but a mistake. I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache. Ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. 'Cause I want it that way.
E que tal outro lugar? Pra sua casa ou pra minha vida? Você escolhe. Tristeza vai se matar com uma dose de alegria. E você completando meu dia. Vai ser a minha semana, meu fim de semana, meu feriado, meu remédio controlado, o meu disco arranhado. Naquela parte que diz eu te amo, te amo, te amo. Te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo. Vai ser a minha semana, meu fim de semana, meu feriado, meu remédio controlado, o meu disco arranhado. Naquela parte que diz eu te amo, te amo, te amo. Te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo. E que tal outro lugar? Pra sua casa ou pra minha vida? Você escolhe. Tristeza vai se matar com uma dose de alegria. E você completando meu dia. Vai ser a minha semana, meu fim de semana, meu feriado, meu remédio controlado, o meu disco arranhado. Naquela parte que diz eu te amo, te amo, te amo. Te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo, te amo. Vai ser a minha semana, meu fim de semana, meu feriado, meu remédio controlado, o meu disco arranhado. Naquela Tinha que ser logo eu, a pessoa que mais te entendeu. Quando você largou dela e sofreu, quem fez gratidão.
Aquele eu te amo parecia ser verdade. Aquele abraço apertado, suspiro forçado, então era saudade de alguém. Tinha que ser logo eu, a pessoa que mais te entendeu. Quando se largou dele sofreu, quem fez curativo em você foi eu. Tinha que ser logo eu, escolheu pra cair na armadilha. Logo eu, que tinha nave e não via malícia. Você fez meu coração de isca, tinha um plano em vista. Fiz a ponte pra ele voltar, eu só fiz o amor dele aumentar. Você fez meu coração de isca, tinha um plano em vista. E no filme dele você, eu só fiz papel de dubleta e o Oscar de melhor atriz pra você.
Seu cabelo no bicho.
Você fez meu coração de isca, tinha um plano em vista. Fiz a ponte pra ele voltar,
still she don't know why. Yeah, but still she don't know why. Yeah, it's fire. I know it burns inside. It's your decision.
Em Fórmula 1 2019, você é convidado a começar a sua...
Said I'm done calling and texting. Don't be so passive aggressive. You're gonna pass that aggression. We've been inside, been invested. How did not come to impress you? You're gonna know cause it's destined. You feel it in your intestine. I know it's hard to swallow. I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. You can't scream loud enough, no one's around you, no. Heart filled with malice, and that's how you have it, I'm still so proud of you. Don't turn your back on me. We'll find our balance. Only I can control it. Find the side why I hurt you till I learn how to flow with the highs and lows. Cons and pros. Yeah, I know it's hard to swallow. I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. Fucking fine. I'm fucking around.
O novo piloto da Carlin está dominando a corrida. Devon Butler continua no encalço. Esses dois andam disputando com muita
Parece um problema com o turbo. Você perdeu velocidade em alta, mas você está bem perto da chegada. Ainda dá para competir e marcar alguns pontos. Não se entrega. Faça o melhor que puder. Estamos com você. Seu parceiro está chegando perto e quer passar. Repito, Lucas quer te passar. Repito, seu parceiro quer te passar. Sei que você não quer entregar a posição, mas sem o turbo, ele tem mais chances de brigar por posições à frente. Se você segurar o Lucas, pode custar pontos para a equipe. Ótimo, agora o Lucas pode avançar. Lucas pediu para eu te agradecer. Sei que é frustrante, mas você fez a escolha certa para a equipe. Agora estamos com você. Faça o melhor possível para completar a prova.
paid it off. Had to take my shot because I really couldn't take my job. Now I'm making guap, it's kinda hard to find a way to rock.
Um trabalho brilhante da Carlin hoje, uma vitória fantástica. David, o que você acha que fez a diferença hoje?
Acho que o que garantiu a vitória de hoje foi a capacidade de adaptação. Em todos os momentos, ele fez o que era preciso. Manteve a calma e a consistência quando precisou, mas foi implacável e agressivo quando foi exigido. Não teve nada que apareceu na frente dele que ele não tenha conseguido administrar. Esse tipo de adaptabilidade é muito útil se ele conseguir levar isso para o resto da temporada.
Como podemos ver, é hora do pódio. E a equipe da Carlin está bem embaixo da nossa cabine de transmissão, indo à loucura enquanto seus pilotos saem. Foi uma ótima vitória e significa muito para a equipe. Então é hora de ver como esse resultado afeta o campeonato de pilotos. A vantagem na ponta da tabela caiu, depois de um resultado ruim do líder. E agora, David Valsec, deixa eu perguntar. Quem foi o piloto do dia?
Olha, depois de uma corrida dessas...
Olha você, foi uma corrida empolgante.
Este é o seu terceiro fim de semana com o Lucas. Como estão as coisas? Como você se sentiu ao receber a ordem de ceder a posição para o líder do campeonato? Ótimo! Hoje ficamos por aqui.
Aí, olha só. Eu sei que não foi fácil me deixar passar, mas você fez a escolha certa. Foi um bom comportamento.
É, bem assim que eu descreveria, parceiro. Só bom, não ótimo. 1 em 6. 1 em 6 chegam na Fórmula 1. Os outros 5 ficam vendo os colegas de equipe com menos talento fazerem pontos. Uma vergonha. Vários pilotos ótimos que nunca têm uma chance porque eles jogam pela equipe.
As equipes que trouxeram a gente até aqui.
Tá, mas são os pilotos que se arriscam que merecem as recompensas. Você quer correr na Fórmula 1? É assim que os vencedores pensam.
Eu não tô lembrando. Quantas corridas de Fórmula 1 você já ganhou?
Pois pode ficar ligado. No fim do campeonato, vou ser eu levantando o troféu e não vai ser usando meu colega de equipe para chegar no pódio.
Ok, já deu. Pode pensar o que você quiser, Devon, mas ainda estamos no começo.
Ou ele é muito esperto ou você é um idiota. Você acha mesmo que se fosse ao contrário ele faria o mesmo por você? Não. Você tem que pensar mais em você. Ninguém mais vai.
Dados do seu celular. Spotify Lite. Mais rápido, leve e fácil para você. Clique no banner e baixe o app.
Tenho muitas opiniões sobre meus programas de TV favoritos. Por isso, tô pensando em criar um podcast para mostrar minhas ideias para as pessoas. E agora eu posso fazer isso com o Anchor, o aplicativo de criação de podcast gratuito do Spotify. As ferramentas do Anchor são fáceis de usar e foram feitas exatamente para quem gosta de criar. Elas ajudam você a produzir quantos episódios quiser e a levá-los a pessoas do mundo todo. Transforme suas ideias em um podcast para todo mundo poder ouvir. Acesse anchor.fm/comece seu podcast para baixar o aplicativo do Anchor e começar seu próprio podcast de graça.
A mí me gusta every time you look at me that way. A mí me gusta all the dirty things you need every day. A mí me gusta.
Não se entregue, você ainda está na briga. Ok, os comissários deram uma punição de 5 segundos de stop and go para o Devon. Pisa fundo, dá para alcançar ele, dá para ganhar. Devon vai entrar nos boxes. Devon está na 6ª posição, P6. Você está 5 posições atrás do Devon, 5 posições de distância. Devon está na 6ª posição, P6. Devon está na 6ª posição, P6. Agora Devon está na P5. 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 Esta é sua última volta da corrida. Agora Devon está na P5. Que azar, não foi nosso dia hoje.
E aí vem ele, entrando no parque fechado. Que grande vitória da Dems. Então, David, o que você achou?
Bom, teve muitos altos e baixos, na minha opinião. Eu tenho que dar os parabéns, é claro. Foi uma corrida espetacular e uma prova fantástica para o vencedor. Mas eu acho que depois dessa corrida vai ter muita gente de olho no Devon Butler por conta daquele acidente. Ele teve muita sorte hoje de várias maneiras. Sorte de ter saído ileso e sorte de ter recebido só uma penalidade. É uma pena que o rival dele não tenha tido a mesma sorte.
Dems, outra equipe com uma longa história. Com sua sede no coração do automobilismo, perto de Le Mans, na França, mostrou mais uma vez sua habilidade incrível na pista e garantiu mais uma vitória. Agora, vamos dar uma olhada na classificação dos pilotos. Foi um bom resultado para...
Hoje você deu azar. Isso deve ser muito decepcionante. A batida com o Devon te custou muito tempo. Você ficou desapontado com o resultado final? Você chegou a pensar que ia recuperar? Você e o Lucas vêm marcando muitos pontos nas últimas etapas. Acha que vocês têm chance no campeonato? Ótimo! Hoje ficamos por aqui.
Ei, Devon! Devon, para!
Agora não, tô ocupado.
Ei, o que você tá fazendo aí? Fala sério.
Enfim, chegamos a Abu Dhabi. Todas as outras etapas do calendário da Fórmula 2 nos trouxeram até aqui, até ela, a última prova do campeonato. E promete ser um espetáculo tão emocionante quanto se poderia sonhar. No circuito de Yas Marina são 5,5 quilômetros de pista numa ilha artificial, além das 21 curvas.
Ok, é isso aí. Última corrida da temporada. Você só precisa marcar mais pontos que o Devon. E quando nos vermos de novo, você vai ser campeão mundial da F2. Sem pressão. Boa sorte.
Situated on the south
Devon está na P4 no momento. Foi um começo ruim, não se desespere, vamos recuperar.
Havia dúvidas no começo da temporada se esse carro e esse piloto poderiam chegar até aqui. Mas agora as dúvidas acabaram. Que ano especial tivemos. E aqui está ele, o novo campeão do Mundial de Pilotos da Fórmula 2. Adams conquista uma vitória merecida após uma corrida de muitas emoções. David, me fala, era isso que você esperava?
Teve de tudo um pouco. Teve rivalidade, teve tensão, teve emoção. Os dois pilotos...
Esse resultado também confirma o título do campeonato da...
Hoje foi um dia de azar. Vamos falar disso. Você entrou na última corrida com o título ao seu alcance. Qual a sensação de... Que final emocionante para a temporada, mas... Corre o boato de que você tem um futuro na Fórmula 1. Algum comentário? Certo. Muito obrigada.
Devon, mesmo que isso doa, temos que admitir.
Ah, e aí? Pode entrar. Pode sentar. Tá na hora da gente conversar sobre o próximo passo. O seu desempenho na Fórmula 2 ano passado atraiu muita atenção das equipes da Fórmula 1. Positiva e negativa. Eu não tô preocupada com quem gosta de você ou não. Vai ter tempo pra conquistar quem tá em dúvida. Mas eu tô preocupada com nossas opções. Elas estão sumindo porque não nos comprometemos com ninguém. Escolha excelente. Pelo que conversei, eles estão muito empolgados em negociar uma oportunidade. Avisarei a equipe sobre a sua intenção. Eu vou ter que revisar os detalhes com eles, mas é pra isso que me paga. Fora isso, meus parabéns. Mereci.
E aí, você chegou. Foi mal. É que eu estou de saída. Mas sua estação de trabalho está ali no fundo. Olha, acho que deve estar tudo certo com a rede. Mas avisa o pessoal se não estiver. Ali você pode acessar todos os dados de que precisa para nos ajudar no desenvolvimento do carro. Faz um reconhecimento da área. Depois vai treinar quando estiver pronto. Então, depois nos vemos, ok?
Esta é a sua nova equipe. Há cerca de uma década, a Red Bull chegou com tudo no esporte e se tornou uma das equipes mais bem-sucedidas do grid. Eles têm uma entrada constante de novos talentos vindos do seu famoso
celular. E você ainda tem mais velocidade e também economiza seus dados de internet. Spotify Lite. Mais rápido, leve e fácil para você. Clique no banner e baixe o app.
Tenho muitas opiniões sobre meus programas de TV favoritos. Por isso, tô pensando em criar um podcast para mostrar minhas ideias para as pessoas. E agora eu posso fazer isso com o Anchor, o aplicativo de criação de podcast gratuito do Spotify. As ferramentas do Anchor são fáceis de usar e foram feitas exatamente para quem gosta de criar. Elas ajudam você a produzir quantos episódios quiser e a levá-los a pessoas do mundo todo. Transforme suas ideias em um podcast para todo mundo poder ouvir. Acesse anchor.fm/comece seu podcast para baixar o aplicativo do Anchor e começar seu próprio podcast de graça.
Dancing in your eyes. So how do I begin to tell you now that I can be the one to bring your angel out? In this life of sin, I can be your muse, I can be your ally, I can be your moon, I can be your sacrifice, I can be forever, little touch of heaven tonight. Put your hands together and close your eyes. Tell me you believe, get down on your knees. They say love is religion, so say a prayer with me. I don't wanna preach, but I'm all that you need. They say love is religion, so say a prayer with me. They say love is religion. There's a fire rising in my heart like a choir. I can hear them singing my favorite song, the one they played while I was laying in your arms. Just let me stay in your arms, 'cause I can be your goal, I can be your delight, I can feed your soul, I can be your sacrifice, I can be forever, little touch of heaven for life. Put your hands together and close your eyes. Tell me you believe, get down on your knees. They say love is religion, so say a prayer with me. I don't wanna preach, but I'm all that you need. They say love is religion, so say a prayer with me. It's a religion. Put your hands together and close your eyes.
Puzzle and elementary school kids who probably don't have the concept of indies. They just loved it. They thought it was super fun, and it's been really popular in Japan. So I think there's just all sorts of games that are fun and out there.
Do any of you have other thoughts about the future of indie games or what we can expect from the genre or art form moving forward?
The thing I love most about, I guess, how we're referring to indie games here is like I love the not knowing what's coming, because ultimately it's anticipating that I'm not capable of anticipating what's going to be the next thing coming out. Like, I love finding something I never thought I would like, or I've never thought would be a game or even fun. Like when Job Simulator, for instance, came out, I'm like, who wants to, like, that goes against Ron Gilbert's thing about like getting off a job and then going home and relaxing. I loved it. Or, you know, like all these sorts of things, or like even some weird things that would come out of mobile and all this stuff. Like, I would just never anticipate that stuff and things like that. And it's the, I guess what I look forward to is the things I cannot anticipate.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. It's so great to hear the different perspectives about indie games and indie studios, as well as hear your thoughts on what's coming up next and what to look out for. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you very much.
IGN Summer of Gaming 2021 is presented by the Amazon original movie, The Tomorrow War, exclusively on Prime Video July 2nd.
The
razor blade.
Use the razor stuff.
Use the razor chair. Have a good time. You know what I mean?
I have actually been wanting a razor blade for a very long time. When I used to work at Twitch.
Put it in your bag.
Yes, I should. When I used to work at Twitch, you had an option. You can either get a razor for like Windows users or a Mac.
Yeah.
And I don't mess with Macs at all because I'm terrible. My brain just doesn't work that way for some reason. So I went with the original razor blade.
Yeah.
That was so fun to carry around the office. Just a sleek black thing.
Sure, play games whenever you want too.
Yeah,
right?
it was
that's
amazing.
pretty.
I used to at that time I was playing a lot of controller games, so I would just plug it in and just go nuts. It was a good time. So yeah, it sounded like a shameless plug, but I swear to God, it was the truth.
Well, speaking of a shameless plug, the Razer Blade is a great place to play indie games. And what an indie presentation we just had. Of course, it's not over. We have the indie panel coming up, but there was something said in that panel here. Janet Garcia, of course, from MinMax and Kinda Funny, put up this tweet. That's the beauty of independence. You can try to avoid the urge to appeal to a majority. That was Ed McMillan on that panel right there.
So good.
I think that is the power of indie games, and especially as we're here at E3 talking about the biggest of big AAA games, but also spotlighting so many small indies is, you can take more chances as a small studio.
It's vital to highlight the independent games business as a whole because there's so much diversity there, and just in the games that they're delivering, top to bottom. You can ram off like a few names like off the top of your head, but for me, one independent game that I discovered that I fell in love with was Moonlighter.
Oh my God, yes.
Love that game so much. And I found it out on a whim because I was playing another independent game. I think it's Momodora, I believe was on the Switch. Great game. And I was like, man, I'm looking for something else. And, I finished that one and I found Moonlighter. And oh my goodness, it just stole me. It captured my heart. Love that game. And I wouldn't have found that, if someone just, take that to a AAA studio or something like that.
Totally, and that's the thing right now is there are so many indies, it's impossible to keep up with all of them, right? And that's, Moonlighter was the exact same thing. My job, of course, every day is to talk about video games, review video games, preview video games, and I didn't know about Moonlighter until somebody on our subreddit was like, this is a great game, you need to play it. 100%. And that's why I think it's so powerful that E3 keeps doing indie showcases, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get back to game reviews.
Yeah.
We know why we're here, we know why you're there, so without further delay, here are some of the hottest indie titles set to come your way soon.
been a long time, Michael. I heard you were back in town. But I don't remember sending you an invitation. I'd kill you myself. But where's the fun in that? No, Michael. I'm gonna roll out the red carpet for you. I'll be watching you, Michael. Good luck, old friend.
Captain, I got the intel.
Good. Now take it to the uplink.
Ahí está vaina.
The base road blind.
Target is marked.
Oh, thanks. Ciao. So, Roman, what's the deal with this intel?
I guess I'll kill you now.
The drone is down.
The drone is mine.
Armor activate.
You are safe with me.
Connection established. Execute protection mode.
All right, I'll download the data. Now, you know what to do.
Torreta! Soldiers, we need you here.
Keep your wig on, pet. I'm all over it. So, what we're gonna do with the intel?
We need it for the job, you know, the heist, larceny.
Larceny? More like...
A most ingenious plan to end this war too sweet and straight away. So I asked to see the general, but the sergeant told me no. He said, in the trenches where you're meant to stay. I said, dear sergeant, pardon me, I see that I've made you upset, but let me tell you my plan to save the day. Oh, let's try being a little nicer. Let us all agree to disagree. Why don't we send some flowers to the Kaiser, and then we'll all be home in time for tea. Oh, let's try being a little sweeter. You catch more flies with honey, don't you see? If the brass would change their tone, then we could all go home. But the generals never listened. The generals never listened. The generals never listened to me.
That was tough. Now
Hamilton. Some beast is looking at us. Whoa, would you look at that? Mars is one heck of a planet. So green and beautiful.
Let's just be careful, sir.
Game developers are creative, passionate, and driven. We tackle new technologies and overcome many challenges in the pursuit of our creative vision. At the IGDA, it is our mission to support and empower all game developers around the world. We provide community, mentorship, research, knowledge, and best practices. We're here for you when you need it, so you can advance your career while keeping your health. Join us and help make our industry a better place for all of us, now and in the future. Help make a difference and join the IGDA.
what are you really made of? That music got me hyped, huh? I was like, okay, I'm here for it. Anyway, we just looked at the indie game presentation, and I wrote down a bunch of titles there. Extra Galactica is the one that we just saw, and I was telling y'all earlier my friend was a part of that project, so very cool there. But that was just one of many games that had a very retro feel. Fallen Aces was another one that I wrote down on my list. So yeah, I just feel like I'm getting all these retro vibes this year. Damon, I'm sure you're loving it.
Yeah, for sure. And I liked Extra Galactica. First of all, I love the pixel art style, so that appeals to me. And it looks like the gameplay is a mix of shooter and 2D action platformer. I don't know, do you have any more information about what that game actually is?
To be honest, he sent me like a 2-page email, so I'll make sure to pass it along to you, Damon, for sure. But honestly, he sent it to me this morning. He's like, dude, this is going to be in the show. And I was like, what? Like, that was one that I wrote down earlier that I liked because I got to get a sneak peek at the presentation. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that game. And yeah, that totally vibed. It was amazing. But Fallen Ace is another one that I put down there. Very Doom-inspired. And we saw something from the same studio or creator yesterday. Am I wrong?
We saw Dave Oshry from New Blood during the PC Gaming Show before he was unceremoniously cut off by Gabe Newell talking about Steam Next Fest. But they have a bunch of cool stuff coming out. I also love all the URLs they have for each of their games, very tongue-in-cheek. This one was literally Doom Noir. It does feel like a throwback to the FPS of yesteryear, but with that stylized sort of 1920s gangster flair. It looks like a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness, I love the narration, right? I was just like, that villain, that voice is just haunting me.
I'm sure it really spoke to you, Michael.
Yeah. The whole trailer was like, yo, Michael, I know you. I'm watching you. I'm like, oh, you're watching me? Oh, I appreciate that because I'm on the E3 stage. You know the vibe.
Oh, man. And Michael, I wanted to talk to you about Fallen Frontier Alliance of Salt Sons?
Sacred Sons.
Sacred Sons. I can't read my own handwriting here, guys. And then Terra Invicta. And you and Dan were kind of having some crosstalk about how these indie games, they're keeping dead genres alive.
The genres that have been of yesteryear, especially for that aren't really popular. You can't really get a AAA RTS anymore. You can't really get, other than we have Humankind and we have Civilization, but if you want a different 4X strategy game, that's what Alliance of the Sacred Sons is kind of covering. And Terra Invicta, a grand strategy game. Of course, we have Total War, but maybe you want a little bit of variety. So the thing about independent games that I really like is that you can revitalize those genres of the past. And you can be experimental. And I think this is a theme also when you look at a lot of the independent games is that they have experimental game mechanics. I think that Neko Ghost Jump, which I love so very much, you can play with perspective and put a spin on platforming. And the triple threat of strategy games, I know that I used to play a lot of them when I had time back in the day. I used to play a lot of StarCraft and Warcraft, and I miss like the early days of Civilization 4 when I was in high school and I had time to pour into matches. And so if you're craving that sort of thing, you can definitely pay attention to these sorts of games and maybe get your fill.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think 4X games are a fantastic way to hit fast forward on life sometimes. Like, for example, Civilization was a saving grace during the pandemic as well because I'd be like, oh man, I'm really kind of bored right now. Oh, suddenly it is 4 a.m. and I've been playing this for hours. And that looks exactly like what I'm going to get from Alliance of the Sacred Sons. But I also have to say one that really caught my eye here is a game that looks like a bit of a Mootroidvania, and that is Moolander.
Oh my gosh, I had that on my
fun.
list. Yeah.
Like it's the same sort of like irreverent feeling that I got from a game like Guacamelee, for example. But with this, I love that these cows are your enemies. I was getting some Diablo 2 vibes from that hell cow at the end there. I'm just very excited to see what that has in store because it looks like it has a good sense of action, gameplay, and whimsy.
Wow, you really milked that one. An utter disgrace.
Oh, no.
Beat me to it.
If y'all could hear the puns coming from Dan, we really should be writing them down. We did have the poll up earlier, though, and I wasn't able to reference it right away because I just love hearing y'all talk about this stuff. But I do think that Neko Ghost Jump was #1. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was there you go. And then also I know there was Life Slide and a bunch of other incredibly cute ones that I was just like, oh my gosh, indie games, just so much fun. But okay, favorites? Should we go down the line here? Damon, what you picking? I see the wheels turning.
They were coming fast and furiously.
Yeah.
I know people like Fallen Aces. I got to give a shout out to Toy Soldiers HD. I reviewed the original Toy Soldiers for IGN way back in the day, and that's like a tower defense game that you're kind of take the action right down to the ground. It's built in 3D space, so it's really cool to see that game making a comeback.
Neko, I already mentioned Neko Ghost Jump, but I do want to shout out Tunguska, I forgot the name.
Tunguska, the
Tunguska.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, I really messed that one up. But yeah, the top-down shooter, that looks interesting. I'm very interested in that.
Larcenauts, let's go. Let's compete in VR. I'm down for it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I think I'd pick Tunguska as well, but Nico is very close behind, runner-up. Well, so many great indie titles. Let's see what GB and Greg thought of the indie games that we saw today. Hi, guys. I know y'all love the Nico game. I don't even need to ask, right?
Of course we did, Jackie, but it didn't make my top 3. Golden Boy, what do you have over there? What stood out to you from that indie presentation? 2021.
A lot. So I'm actually newly appointed member of the VR community.
Oh, welcome, welcome.
You know, so Larcenauts was awesome. I liked it a lot. Big shout out to my boy BMF, who covers a lot of the VR stuff as well as Thrill Seeker. Big fan of those guys, and I always love checking out their content. Keeps me up to date on all things VR.
Of course.
Then the other one, Fallen Aces, man.
Yeah, Fallen Aces made my list for sure. That was a dope
Literally
trailer.
saw that and I was like, oh, I'm 100% playing this on stream. Like, this is happening because it looks so dang good. And then I would probably go with Tunguska. Another shooter, but for some reason the style was really appealing to me. Like, the style of shooting was really appealing to me.
Sure.
So I'm all about that. Looked really good.
Okay, great. Yeah, on my list, I put Fallen Aces for sure. Stylized first-person shooter, love it. That Doom LA Noire mashup, why not? Let's get out there and do it. And yeah, New Blood, of course, always being cheeky, as they said, doomnoir.com.
Like, they really, I do feel like they like never do wrong. Like, the New Blood's great. They're a great studio.
They know what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
They're in that vein of Devolver, where they have a personality and their games do too, and you know what that means when you see that, I think, splash across it.
Exactly.
The other one I want to give a shot was Bark. It was that kid shmup that went by or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd had been one of my friends in the industry is working on it. He had emailed me to give me a heads up that, hey, it's at E3. You should check it out in the virtual booth if you have time. And basically, he pitched it as a shmup for dads. Like, it's couch co-op. Get in there with your kid. You're piloting. You know, it was a little dog that caught my eye, but you can be a little cat.
Okay.
It's this colorful game that you go through and you're shooting things, but you're not shooting things.
Yeah.
Right? You're able to explore that way. And then, for me, to echo what people said over there, Extra Galactica, right?
Stylized. I mean, you do anything that's in a cyberpunk style world, and I'm literally there. I'm all about it. Great visuals. I feel like that is, again, you know, and everyone's going to look at me like, oh, there's a lot of like pixel art game stuff, but you think about what people have been able to create, Greg, in these universes, in this style of artwork. It is gorgeous. And, you know, because Fallen Ace is also bringing back the stylized cel-shaded approach, which was something that I fell in love with when I first feast my eyes on Jet Grind Radio. So there is really a lot of quality here, and this was awesome. Some great games I'm really looking forward to trying.
Me too, ladies and gentlemen. What were your favorites? Let us know. Hashtag E3 2021 so you can get up on the big screen. But when E3 2021 returns, we'll have the latest from Freedom Games, Capcom, and more. Take a breath and hold on. We'll be back after this.
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, memes, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
There's definitely some kind of vibe that has built up over the years that, like, it's okay to be mean in a game. And I think that's got to change.
We've all had bad days. We all get rolled because it's the same like 12-year-old cranking 90s on us in the Fortnite lobby, and we can't build as quick, and he just builds a Taj Mahal and then just drops down on you and you're angry. I get it, but
I don't think we should all be okay with just accepting like, oh, this is how people talk on this video game. Like, that is not okay.
There's a difference between conflict and dialogue. When you're having a conversation, you don't have to agree. And when it's becoming something that's toxic, right, there's no respect.
it's a social contract you enter into as a human when you walk out your front door. That is that you will act with decency. And it follows that this would also be imposed online.
And it's easier to just say, oh, mute your mic or don't say anything, but no, do better.
We just shouldn't foster an environment where saying something bad is okay. It should never be okay. It should never be on the receiver to grow thicker skin.
Having other people in the community that have gone through that and that you can connect with is probably the most therapeutic, helpful part.
Find those people that you connect with and have that support group.
I think just pushing a positive environment is a good place to start.
If you see something, say something. I think it starts with all of us standing up.
I don't know, it just feels like the right thing to do, to speak loudly about things that really matter.
I think over the years, the space has become a lot more welcoming, a lot more open.
There's such an overwhelming presence of like positivity and acceptance and diversity, and
great strides are being made, but I also think that like more can be done from us as the people that like to play them to make sure that that happens.
Keep playing because you love the game, and no one should be able to take you from what you love.
What's up, everyone? I'm Stella Chung, and in today's fix, Starfield makes a splash at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, Halo Infinite gets a release window, and we finally know when you can go on ball runs again in Diablo 2 Resurrected. This is your daily fix. Microsoft came out swinging with a look at Bethesda's first new property in over 20 years, Starfield. The in-engine trailer begins on an alien planet aboard a vessel called the Constellation. The narrator talks about venturing into a field of stars, and we get a look inside the interior of the Constellation, which looks reminiscent of the space-age ships from the 60s. Beyond the cinematic trailer, we still don't know much about the gameplay itself. On stage, Todd Howard said that Starfield is about hope and shared humanity. Bethesda also confirmed separately that Starfield will be the first game created on its updated Creation Engine 2, which means improvement to graphical fidelity, among other things. A tweet shared by Bethesda Game Studios themselves stated, "We've spent years developing it to power the next generation of immersion and exploration." And yes, you'll be able to play it on Xbox consoles and PC when it lands on November 11th, 2022. That's not all Team Green had in store for fans, with a deeper look at Halo Infinite and its free-to-play multiplayer. Our first taste of Infinite's multiplayer came in the form of a fast-paced montage of match moments across a variety of maps. Cosmetic upgrades from Halo games past are making a return, as well as our favorite narrator. The free-to-play multiplayer suite will be crossplay and cross-progression. The experience will reportedly be optimized for every device: PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and S. We also got a glimpse at the campaign with Master Chief using his grappling hook to pull himself through some zero-gravity wreckage. There seems to be a new AI construct working with the Master Chief, but judging by its dialogue, Cortana may still play a pivotal role in the story. Halo Infinite will be launching on Game Pass at release, but we just don't know when that release date is specifically, although they did say it was due this holiday after having been originally delayed out of fall 2020. With the remaster of Diablo 2 announced at BlizzConline earlier this year, fans have been wondering just when they can take on the forces of hell again, and we finally have an answer. Diablo 2 Resurrected is hitting consoles and PC on September 23rd. This HD remaster of the classic ARPG will be available on PC via Blizzard's Battle.net, and Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. It will include both the Diablo 2 base game and Lord of Destruction expansion. This follows a playable alpha in April, which looked pretty impressive. Despite a few changes, Blizzard is trying to stay true to Diablo 2's roots. If that isn't enough fire and brimstone for you, the remaster will be available standalone or as a part of a bundle, the Diablo Prime Evil Collection. This comprehensive collection contains the Diablo 3 Eternal Collection, which includes Diablo 3, the Reaper of Souls expansion, the Rise of the Necromancer content pack, and a few cosmetic goodies. Pre-orders are available now, and don't forget to pick up Wurt's leg so you can open that portal to the Chaos secret level. With E3 now in full swing, are there some games you're still looking for? Did Microsoft blow your mind? Let us know. I'm Stella Chung, and that was your Daily Fix. Now that you're all caught up on the news, be sure to check out the rest of our E3 coverage on YouTube, across social media, and even on your smart TV. Download the IGN app on all of your mobile devices, subscribe to the Daily Fix on Snapchat, and for all things, everything else, IGN.com.
Welcome back, folks. Freedom Games is our next developer coming up. And, you know, when you have games that are like called Cat Cafe Manager or Dog Shelter, I think we can assume that things are going to be pretty fun. So, folks, here's Freedom Games.
I decided, you know what, I've dabbled in indie games. I'm going to give this one last shot.
Let's just make a game.
It felt like jumping to the deep end.
I realized that making games was like a real thing that you can do.
It's just so, that's the word, is liberating.
We owned this project.
We just want to make a fun game.
You have an idea of what the vision of it looks like, but then it actually coming out the other side looking like that, it's pretty rare. I co-founded the studio with two of my friends. We had all worked at a company that did not end up turning out like, you know, any of us had hoped. So coming out of that experience, the three of us, we wanted to do something that felt a little bit more authentic to who we were and what we liked. Going into it, we knew that we had complementary skill sets. Having the kind of the core pillars of game design already there and having experience, we were able to cover a lot of bases. This is really the first time we've been able to pour so much of ourselves into the development of a game. I think I'm most proud of us being able to look at this game and know that we're hitting our own quality bar, especially for our first game.
You think you know everything, and then at some point you go, oh wait, we didn't know how to do that part. Well, I guess we got to figure it out. The four of us who started the studio worked in AAA. I left to go start making indie games. So we took that opportunity to kind of use our old friend group and our old expertise to start up the Wandering Band. And it was the first time that all of us felt complete creative control. That was fun. It was a challenge. It was also scary at the beginning. On a AAA team, you have technical artists and a dozen animators. I think the biggest challenge for us was trying to learn new skills and new parts of the game development process without ever doing it before. But I wouldn't trade it away. I think it's the creativity and the creative freedom is totally worth it.
The retro games. These were our favorites. And we tried to combine a lot of different elements from different games and give it a unique touch. A shout out to our community. They helped us translate the demo. They helped us get out the word. The demo has been played over 1 million times. It's just great to get a community like that. They helped us make Corman what it is.
I had lived in Kyoto for a while where I'd gone to a cat cafe, and it was such a surreal experience for me at the time. So we sat down and we prototyped Cat Cafe Manager. When you're petting a cat, I don't know what it is, like endorphins that are being released, like the good feeling that you get from that, we kind of wanted to put in the game. We live in a time that's like pretty stressful and out of control in a lot of ways. So for us, it's very important that you sort of get a cozy feeling when you get introduced to the game. Just making the cat cafe of your dreams.
I'm from a really rural town. So is Tanner, the other lead developer on the game. We've been together since middle school, like I said. Yeah. There's no companies, right? There's no video game companies in Little Rock or the state of Arkansas. So we decided to just be the first. To the Rescue is where you play as somebody working in a dog shelter and taking on all the responsibilities that entails. People love dogs so much, but this is also about raising awareness, right? It's both of those things. There's diseases that can appear in the shelter. It's dirty, and adopters only want the cutest puppies, and they don't want the old dogs. Essentially, I just want people to walk away with more knowledge about the things we're representing. We've gotten a lot of people that work in real shelters that are like, I'm glad that you're doing this, because a lot of people don't realize how hard the work is and how thankless it is. So 20% of every dollar that Little Rock Games makes from this game is going to be going to the Pet Finder Foundation. The game is about being hopeful that you can improve your community in some small way.
I first started getting into games probably about 7 or 8 years old, tinkering around with game engines. I started putting games on the web, Flash games and things like that. I always liked the idea of really silly deaths, characters getting blown to bits in like a cartoony way. It's usually an area of frustration, but when you can see your character's head just flying off and blood's going everywhere, it's like you just got nothing but humour there.
Sure gonna feel bad in the morning.
I come up with the idea of having like a Ninja Warrior / Total Wipeout death competition. I was actually working 2 jobs at the same time as developing the game. I'd have all these fantastic ideas while I was there. You know, I'd be on the checkout just thinking about Slaughter League, and then by the time I get home, I'd just like, we ended up deciding that it would be best if I worked full-time on the game. This game, it sounds corny, but it's changed my life in that way, whereas no other game had before. It's just flipped my life to where I want it to be. So to finally be able to do this as a job is just insane. I love it.
This is definitely like a good, just relax, chill in the evening, play with buds, laugh at stupid stuff kind of game.
Oh, this is sick.
Yeah!
What is that? Oh, Jesus!
Gonna be an absolute so.
I was pretty laid back in college. I did just fine, but I worked on Dark Deity. I didn't work on my own work. None of us have ever worked on games at all. So for the majority of development, I worked on it in the dorm, yeah. And we would sort of just sit in the dorm room, just like, you know, typing, working away. I learned how to code for like a whole week. I just didn't leave my room, didn't eat, didn't do anything. You know, where we're at, we're all 23. 2 of us haven't even graduated college yet. To be at E3 is pretty exciting.
Whenever you need me.
I should raise my rates. I've failed my people.
Weakness has consequences. This would make for a fine tale.
I've always thought that I would be good at making video games. My mom just sent me a picture of a drawing I did when I was like 8, titled My